is Reverend King and Carol King. They are the parents of Rachel King. So I'm here this morning with all these folks to talk about Rachel King and the horrific targeted murder of her on April 11th that took her life. It was an ordinary Tuesday morning when a devoted single mother, was just stopping off at Dunkin' Donuts on the way to her 11-year-old son's violin practice. She was gunned down, and the killer just drove away. Rachel was beloved by so many. Her grieving parents who have joined us, brother, cousins, many friends, and all the students and former students at the Grover Cleveland Mastery Charter School in Philadelphia, where Rachel taught for 10 years. Today is when justice begins for Rachel. Today, we are here to announce the arrests of 2 people responsible for the planning and executing of this terrible, unfathomable murder of an innocent person. And let me emphasize that, an innocent person. We believe the shooter didn't even know Rachel, and the mastermind of the plot didn't know her either. Yet she was filled with enough hatred to work to have Rachel killed. Here are the defendants. Julie Jean of Elkins Park, and Al-Hakim, or Zaki Al-Hakim of Philadelphia, the defendants. They've been charged with first-degree murder, third-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and related charges. They're both now behind bars. Jean at the Montgomery County Correctional Facility, and Al-Hakim behind bars in Philadelphia, under arrest since late in the day of April 11th, the day he shot Rachel King multiple times to kill her. He will be arraigned tomorrow from the Philadelphia facility. Right, the facts of this case and how these 2 defendants conspired and planned for nearly 2 months to kill Rachel King is truly disturbing. It was a cold-blooded killing, a targeted murder of an innocent person planned by these 2 defendants and horrifically carried out in front of King's son. I must emphasize the excellent investigation by the Cheltenham Township Police and the Montgomery County detectives who uncovered this conspiracy bit by bit, piecing this puzzle together until we have the full picture of what was behind this murder plot. Rachel King was in a long-time relationship with a man named William Hayes, who it turned out had had an affair sometime last year with Julie Jean. But he broke it off, and he and Rachel had worked out to continue their relationship. But Jean harassed both Hayes and the victim, watching them, texting them, calling so much that Hayes actually sought court relief, filing and receiving a protection from abuse order on Julie Jean last December, and that was before Judge Dan Clifford here in Montgomery County. Detectives found that in mid-February, the 2 defendants began communicating by cell phone. Jean knew Al-Hakim, or Zah, in her contacts through the father of her children, who was Al-Hakim's cousin. On February 20th, Al-Hakim saved this Google image to his photos. It's the apartment complex where Rachel and her son lived, with a pin dropped on Rachel's exact apartment and a red arrow showing the route to take to get to the residence. It was a route that Al-Hakim would take a number of times, as we recovered video surveillance that showed Al-Hakim traveled a number of times in the days leading up to the murder after he obtained a Mercury Sable, which he was driving when he killed Rachel. But I'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. So 6 days after the map is saved to Al-Hakim's phone, cell phone location data and text messages show that the two defendants met up in Philadelphia. And detectives located a single photo of the victim. Now, this is important because Rachel King being displayed on a screen, which through some expert analysis determined that's Julie Jean's cell phone. She's holding up a picture of the victim, Rachel King, that Al-Hakim takes a picture of. Her hand, her phone, showing the victim. This photo was taken at 2:17 p.m. and the screen capture was saved at 2:21 when both of the defendants were together in this display of a number of photos of Rachel. The defendants were also connected through a silver Mercury Sable, and I'll turn to that. Many of you saw this because this is the photo that we put out after the killing of Rachel. And this was driven by the defendant as he followed Rachel from her residence to the Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru, where he exited the vehicle and shot her multiple times. And he left behind 6 9mm fired cartridge casings, or FCCs. This silvery Mercury Sable was purchased on March 30th, less than 2 weeks before the murder, when Al-Hakim and Jean went to the Philadelphia car dealer together. The vehicle was sold for $1,500 and bought in Julie Jean's name, and then Al-Hakim is using it. On April 7th, the same silver Mercury Sable was captured on surveillance video outside a beer store at 5100 North Broad Street, where the victim, James Farrell, was fatally shot multiple times by a man matching Al-Hakim's description. So the Philadelphia murder occurs on the 7th of April. And in that case, the shooter, the defendant, fled in a silver Mercury Sable with a sunroof. And there were 11 9mm fired casings, or FCCs, that were recovered from that murder scene. So our homicide scene and the Philadelphia homicide scene, both the evidence from each of those was entered into our newly acquired NIBIN machine. And as some of you know, because I think a number of you were there when we did the press conference on it, is National Integrated Ballistics Information Network. When I stood with a number of the district attorneys, as well as our high-intensity drug trafficking director in ATF, and what this machine does is it's able to compare a fingerprint or unique markings on these FCCs, or the fired casings, to all 6 million FCCs from gun crimes that are stored in this database. Now, this is significant because it's, we have April 7th and we have April 11th. And they're a match. The match was confirmed by physical examination of the FCCs by firearms and ballistics experts from our detective bureau. Further, the firearms and ballistics expert found evidence that the FCCs would be consistent with having come from a privately made firearm, commonly known as a ghost gun. Guess what? We didn't recover the gun, but we recovered a photo that our experts say And this photo was on Al-Kahim's cell phone and was taken on March 16, 2023. So it's consistent with the gun that was used in both murders. So we announced the acquisition of the NIBIN machine, and a lot of you asked the question on whether we had solved a case with us. The answer is yes. And this is the first significant match that has come from this new NIBIN system that we have. And it is very significant. And it proves that this machine can help us solve drug crimes and homicides and will help us make a difference in fighting violence in our communities. So Al-Hakim is now facing 2 sets of homicide charges here in Montgomery County and in Philadelphia. After we put that photo out of the Mercury Sable shortly after Rachel's killing, Philadelphia police on patrol spotted the vehicle and in the early evening attempted to pull it over. Al-Hakim took off at a high rate of speed, stopping only when he crashed into a fence. He was charged with the Philadelphia murder on the evening of April 11th and has been locked up since. That provided us with some time to find out what was behind this murder and find out of what was behind Rachel's killing. Julie Jean was questioned a first time by detectives on April 12th. And significantly, 13 minutes before meeting with our detectives, Jean deleted 787 text messages. Many of those communications were able to be recovered, including the last message that Jean sent to Al-Hakim via Cash App. And that was at 12:11 p.m., less than 5 hours after Rachel's killing. And it was a payment of $5 with an emoji message that we interpreted to mean, link up, message me, no phones, that's it. I've seen a lot of horrible and even horrific homicides, evil homicides, in my nearly 30 years of doing this as a prosecutor. And suffice it to say, I'm struggling with this one. Where a truly innocent woman is targeted in a long-planned murder, all because of an ended affair. It's hard to come to grips with, but what I will say is that and I will be prosecuting this case personally, along with Caroline Goldstein, are going to work really, really hard to obtain justice for Rachel King. Okay, we'll take questions.
Is it accurate to say Al-Hakim was hired? Was the murder for hire?
Look, all the evidence in this case points to the beginning of a relationship between these two in February. Lots of contact. Pictures of the victim being shown, and then maps and a car being bought, and then contact after. And I'll also say what we talk about as consciousness of guilt, getting rid of lots of things on your phone right before you talk to the detectives. So, look, we're going to continue to go down this track and investigate this, but it appears that it was a conspiracy. It was a murder for hire. It is a horrific killing of an innocent young teacher in front of her 11-year-old son.
Kevin, is there any indication, I know she supplied him with the car, is there any indication that she supplied him with the firearm as well?
There's the picture that we found of that firearm, that was taken, and we believe that there was communication between the two of them with the gun. I can't say definitively, that she supplied it or, how he came, but they both knew that he had that gun.
And this was a ghost gun that was manufactured by somebody, in other words, it's not a gun that was purchased in a gun store.
Correct. These are these privately made firearms. Where the kit was bought, I'm not sure on this, but we know that he had it, and we know in the Philadelphia case and in our case, the bullets and the casings that we found were from the same gun. And that's significant. So in the course of 4 days, he killed twice.
Is there any indication that the woman accused made any threats directly to King or Haynes? I'm just saying, she was arresting them for months before they took that protection order?
Yeah. So what we know is that she, from the protection from abuse order, on at least one occasion, she was sitting outside of Rachel's home and watching her, and this harassment, is kind of laid out in the protection from abuse order that Mr. Hayes got on her, where she's contacting repeatedly, knocking on windows, doing a number of actions that seemingly set this course of what she did, and again, all the evidence points to them, the two of them working on this together, providing photos, providing buying the car in her name. He likely paid for it, but it was in her name. So that's some of the things that we have in it.
Was Rachel also included on this protection from abuse order, or was it just Hayes?
Hayes and his children, and part of it and part of the facts behind it were the harassment also of the victim, Rachel.
So that time when she was, the defendant was outside, sitting in front of her house, were they taken to court for that at all? Were police called, involved?
I don't know that police were called at that point. Not that I'm aware of, but it's outlined in the protection from abuse allegations that were given, and then a judge, gave the order. So, I don't know all the specifics of how that came in, but we have, an order that was done in this case.